الحمد لله رب العالمين ونصلي ونسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم وبعد. Again, for everyone, come as close as you can, sit as close as possible. Unless you have a good reason to sit far away, then I would encourage everyone to sit as close as possible. Alhamdulillah, we have now reached hadith number 3. So we finished the hadith number 1 about intention and the great hadith of Jibreel, which is the second hadith of Al-Arba'in Nawawiyya. So I would like, just as a recap, one point that we mentioned as a lesson from the first hadith. So the first hadith of intention, anything that you learned from that hadith, I would like to be mentioned. Anything. One point from the hadith about intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Yep.
I learned about Ajr,
You like that point every time you mention the same one. It is a good point, so it's accepted, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so you can do everyday activities, but just with the right intention. You can even make like footy with the boys full of ajr by you having the right intention. Going to the gym becomes ajr, going to work becomes ajr, driving becomes ajr, spending time with family can become ajr just by having the right intention. Doing something for the sake of Allah, which would take, like we said, a few seconds. Well, all that time, your daily activities, yeah, all of that will be considered ajr. Excellent. Okay, so the second hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, from that whole hadith and the countless lessons that we mentioned, and we didn't get time to mention, one point.
Also 3 points which summarize Islam.
Okay, so what about Islam, Iman and Ihsan? What about them?
It's the obligatory thing which we must do, we have to do to be Muslims.
Right, so that covers Islam. Those are the obligatory external actions.
Yeah.
Okay, so external action in Islam has to do with that which you can do, right? We can pray, we can fast, we can take money and give zakah, right? We can go and perform hajj. But what is the difference between Islam and Iman? Iman's got to do with internal. Yeah, the internal actions. So can you do believing in angels? Is that something you can do? Or believing in the Day of Judgment, is that something you can do? No, you can't. It's all internal actions. And then what about Ihsan? The top one is perfection, which has got to do with
Heart.
the heart. So again, the internal, but limited part of the internal. So pinnacle of internal action, which is Ihsan. Ihsan can be achieved in every single ibadah. Every single worship for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, you're able to reach the pinnacle point, which is worshipping Allah as though you see Him. And if you don't see Him, He sees you. Right? That's like the top level that we aim and aspire towards. Okay? And like we said, there's a lot of benefits and lessons that can be derived from all these ahadith, gems, which is the very reason why Imam Nawawi rahimahullah cherry-picked these specific ahadith to include within his book. Right. And these 2 ahadith, who is the companion that reported these 2 ahadith? Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Today, hadith number 3 is his son, Abdullah ibn Umar. Right? Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he was known to be one of the strictest in adherence in copying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like literally copying everything. He would look at exactly the way he walks, talks, gestures, interacts with people, and he would copy absolutely anything he can copy from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To the point where they saw Abdullah ibn Umar one day, he was riding on a camel and then he did this. So they said, why are you doing that? Why are you, every time in that same place, you move to the side like this? Why do you do that? So he said, there used to be a tree here, and every time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would ride past here, he would duck to not hit the branches of that tree. The tree is no longer there. But even if the tree is not there, just because he saw Rasulullah do that, he loves to do that as well. Which is supposed to be our mentality as well. Trying our best to copy Rasulullah because Rasulullah is the best of examples, sent by Allah Azza wa Jal as the final messenger and prophet, the best person to ever walk on the face of this earth for us to use as a role model, even in the 21st century and beyond until يوم القيامة. طيب الحديث الثالث عن عبد الله ابن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنهما قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: بني الإسلام على خمس: شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. متفق عليه. Reported by Imam Bukhari and Muslim. Hadith number 3 on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah the son of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, Islam is built on 5. Islam has got 5 pillars. The testimony of faith that there is no one worthy of worship, no God worthy of worship except Allah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad is his final messenger, the establishment of the prayer, paying the zakah, performing the pilgrimage Hajj, and fasting the month of Ramadan. You may seem that straight after the second hadith contained within this book, Imam Nawawi has now repeated these 5 pillars of Islam. And we already discussed them when Jibreel alayhi salam asked, tell me about Islam, the external actions of the religion. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah has included this one here to emphasize the importance of these 5 actions making up literally the whole building of Islam. You know, you got a building, right? In a building, you need pillars for that building to stand upright. Without pillars, what will happen? Yeah, it's going to collapse. So the building of Islam has got 5 pillars. You need those 5 pillars for Islam to be upright. And that's the analogy that's been given in this hadith. And Allah Azza wa Jal loves these actions more than any other action, which is why He's made it obligatory, which is why He's made it pillars of the religion. And you've got the analogy now, you got a building, and the building of Islam is made up of how many pillars? 5 pillars. This building stands upon a foundation. What is the foundation of these 5 pillars? The Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal, the oneness of Allah. So you know how you need a building with a strong foundation. Without a strong foundation, it's still going to collapse. Even with 5 pillars. 5 pillars without the oneness of Allah, without La ilaha illallah is nothing. You haven't even entered the fold, hence building will collapse. So you have 5 pillars now. This building sits on the foundation of Tawheed. Underneath this building, you need a specific kind of soil or cement for the building not to sink and for it to stand upright in one position and not to shake, no matter what kind of storm hits it. And that layer underneath is akhlaq. Right? So now we need to get this analogy straight. So you got at the very, very bottom, you got akhlaq and adab. Why do we say akhlaq and adab? Because Rasulullah says, بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to perfect manners. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were hard-hearted, O Rasul, they would have left you. They would not have accepted the message. So it goes back to having adab. And then introducing people. 40 years was spent externally presenting the adab of the Rasul before he was even sent. Almost double the amount of years he was a prophet. It took 40 years for him to work with his people through akhlaq and adab first, before presenting Islam to them, before presenting Tawheed and La ilaha illallah. And now you have about 13 years in Mecca where almost entirely, purely, the da'wah of Islam is only La ilaha illallah. No rules and regulations, that came afterwards. So now we see how that analogy is built up from the very bottom to the top. So you got Tawheed, then you got the pillars, most of which we will see, became obligatory in Medina, not in Mecca. So you have adab, akhlaq, Tawheed, then the 5 pillars on top to keep the building upright. Okay? So now the very first pillar of the religion is, what is it? Shahada. The Shahada, good. The Shahada is of 2 parts. So the first part deals with the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. Testimony of faith starts with the lordship of Allah, the oneness of Allah, and recognizing Allah's names and attributes. More commonly referred to as the 3 types of Tawheed. Yeah? So when you see Tawheed, Tawheed means the oneness of Allah, simple. So now that you have Tawheed, you need to recognize the 3 types of Tawheed. You got Tawheed of lordship, that everything you see around you, Allah created. You have the Tawheed of oneness, uluhiyya, that Allah Azza wa Jal is the only one worthy of worship. And you have Tawheed Asma Sifat, which is recognizing Allah's names and attributes. The way to remember it is, everything you see, Allah made it. Isn't that right? Look here. Everything around you, who made it? Good, very good. Allah made it. So Allah made it. Now that you know Allah made it, you also know that can there be more than one Allah? No, that's the second one, Tawheed. Now that we know that there's only one Allah, Allah has got to have names, right? وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Allah has names and attributes. What are some of the attributes of Allah? The most gracious, the most wise, the most high, the ever-living. What else? The most merciful.
Most knowledgeable.
The most knowledgeable. The benevolent. The most seeing. Good, very good. He sees everything. And then the most hearing, yeah, and
Al-Musawwir, Al-Razik.
Yeah, all of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. Yeah? So the way we remember is, number 1, how do we remember these 3 types of Tawheed? Number 1, we look around you. Everything Allah created. Now that we know that He created everything, Allah is only Him. There's no one else. And now that we know that He created it by Himself, we also need to know who He is. And we know Him through His names and attributes. So that is the first part of Shahada. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Yeah, bearing witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah. And Tawheed is of the 3 types. Is it possible to be a Muslim with only 2 types? Why not? It's most of them though. Out of 3 you got 2. Doesn't it work? Why not?
Be all of them.
Huh? Has to be all of them. Are you sure?
They come as a whole package.
And does anyone say that you only need 2? Because there's most of them. No? You need all 3, right? Yes, you need all 3. What was the problem with Quraysh? Quraysh's kufr. The disbelief of Quraysh, where was it? Did Quraysh believe that Allah created everything?
No.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. If you were to ask Quraysh, who made you? They will say, Allah. And if you say to Quraysh, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ خَلَقَهُنَّ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ. They say Al-Aziz and Alim. These are the names of Allah. That means Quraysh also doesn't mind the names of Allah. But what do they have a problem with? The oneness of Allah. That is the problem they had. So is their Islam accepted now that they have 2 from the 3? No. They have to go together. Like the brother said, it's a package of Tawheed. It's either everything or nothing. Do we get these 3 types of Tawheed? It's very, very important, crucial that we understand, the types of Tawheed and what does it entail when you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Okay? Now, the next part. وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. So declaring the testimony of faith, declaring the prophethood of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does it mean when you say that you bear witness that Muhammad Rasulullah is his prophet? What does that entail? What comes under that category? So, in other words, how do we apply that in our lives? Now that you say that we all believe that Muhammad Rasulullah is his final prophet, he is our prophet and our messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What rights now does he have upon us?
Anything Prophet says.
Specifics.
The way of life.
There's 4 different things that's generally summarized when it comes to the prophethood of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we have to apply. And they're logical. If you think about it, you'll get them. It is طاعته فيما أمر, obedience. Whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, that's how it goes. Obedience to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وتصديقه فيما أخبر, and affirming that which he has told us. So accepting that which he tells us. Good. واجتناب ما نهى عنه وزجر, and staying away from what he has prohibited and what he has disliked. وَأَلَّا يُعْبَدَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَرَعَ, and not to worship Allah Azza wa Jal except in the way that he taught us. Okay? So we had Tawheed, 3 types. And then now we have the prophethood of Muhammad Rasulullah. With 4 different parts that we have to adhere to, that we have to follow. What were they? Obedience. Follow what he accept what he says.
Do only worship Allah the way he told us.
Worship Allah the way he told us. If you come here and pray Maghrib 4 rak'at, is that accepted?
No.
Why not? It's 3. You want to pray more. You're like, I can do this. I can add 1 more. No? Because Rasulullah prayed 3. I can't add another one. Even though it logically seems like I want to do more, is that going to be accepted? No. I have to pray Maghrib again. Because we can only worship Allah Azza wa Jal the way we've been taught by our messengers. And then there's one left. Stay away. وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. That which the Rasul gave you, advised you, told you, commanded you, do it and take it. That which he negated you and prohibited you, told you to stay away from, we stay away from. سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. Yeah, right? We hear and we obey our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in short, that is the Shahada, the oneness of Allah and the prophethood of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 2, وإقام الصلاة, the establishment of the prayer. The most important pillar within the fold of Islam. The pillar that you are not excused from no matter what situation you're in. Wealth, health, problems, depression, sadness, illness, whatever you're going through, can you be excused from the prayer?
No.
No. What if you can't stand for the prayer? What if you can't sit down for the prayer? What if you're paralyzed
Signals.
with your eyes? What if you can't do that? In whatever way you can, you need to do. What if you're in the middle of the battlefield and you're being shot? What then? You still have to pray. To the point where if you're in the middle of battle, for example, as they were at the time, you can even pray walking. But there is no leaving the prayer. Or you can halve yourself, a group prays, then they come, then the next one goes pray, then they come, and next one like that. But even in the middle of battle, you're not excused from leaving the prayer. Okay? The salah itself, it was made obligatory when?
During Miraj.
Yeah, in the night journey of the Messenger ﷺ. Yeah, the Rasul used to pray before, but it was made obligatory. Yeah, the salawat that we have today, they were made obligatory during the night journey. The journey of Isra and Miraj, where Rasul ﷺ traveled to the 7 heavens. So important and crucial this act of worship is that Allah Azza wa Jal had to give it directly to the Messenger ﷺ. The rest of them, there was someone in between. Jibreel would come and inform him from Allah Azza wa Jal. Only salah was directly given to him above the 7 heavens when he went to meet his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when he first was given the salah, how many times were there in a day? 50 times in a day. And then obviously we all know the story where he kept going back and forth until they became 5 salawat in the day and night. So what we have now is 17 rak'at, 17 units of prayer that is obligatory for us to perform on a daily basis. 17. 2 Fajr, 4 Dhuhr, 4 Asr, 3 Maghrib, 4 Isha. Those are the obligatory prayers. Then we have the Sunan of the Salawat to act as a fortress and protect these obligatory prayers. Because you know, like your whole life, if you live, for example, 50 years after reaching the age of maturity, now 50 years times 17 rakat every single day. That is what's going to be used on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's how the salah will be counted. You're supposed to pray these many rak'ats in your lifetime. And then on the other side, they will put the actual rak'at that you have prayed. And because the salah, as we mentioned, they're not accepted in just fully accepted or rejected basis, but rather it's more of a percentage based. So during your salah, after you finish it, you may have 50% of your salah accepted, 60%, 70%, 80%, sometimes maybe the full salah accepted. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept all our efforts. So because of that slight deficiency, we need the sunnah prayers, we need the voluntary prayers, because on Yawm al-Qiyamah, if your obligatory prayers, if those 17 rak'at per day for your whole lifetime, they don't add up, what will Allah Azza wa Jalla do? He will put the sunnah prayers on top. If it's still not enough, He will put the rest of the nawafil on top. This is the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That is why we have all these sunan as a fortress to protect these obligatory rak'at. Do you guys get that?
Yeah.
Just like you have In your house, when you want to protect it, you got a fence, right? You got a fence, may have security, maybe electric wires, yeah, to protect that which is important and sacred to you. So just to protect those obligatory prayers, we have the voluntary and the sunnah prayers. That's why we pray them. And you'll see that a lot of the time they are more than the obligatory ones. For example, Dhuhr, the voluntary one is more than the obligatory one. Fajr one is equal to the obligatory one. Yeah, Maghrib is almost equal. And Isha, because you have witr, most of the time becomes more than the obligatory one. Just to be absolutely safe and assured that bi'idhnillah, those rak'at add up on Yawm al-Qiyamah in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla. As we mentioned before, if the salah is correct, that which comes after will be, it will be what? It will be correct, right? If your salah, if you passed the test of the salah, the accountability of the salah, everything else you will automatically pass. Everything after will be better. You already won. As soon as you see that take for the salah, khalas, that's it. You know you're going Jannah, bro. That's it. Bi-idhnillah, inshallah, inshallah. But that assurance has been given to us. If the salah is correct, then everything is correct. If the salah is deficient, then everything after will be worse. May Allah Azza wa Jalla safeguard us. So the Isra and Mi'raj itself, there is slight difference among the scholars when it took place, but they say it took place in the 13th year of prophethood. So right before the Hijrah Nabawiyah from Mecca to Medina. Right? So that's the last year that Rasulullah spent in Mecca. The next one mentioned in the hadith, وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ, paying the zakah. The zakah was made obligatory on the Muslims in the second year of the Hijrah. So after they migrated to Medina, 1 year passed, around 18 months passed, and the obligation of the zakah was revealed to our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before this in Mecca, when you see it says وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ, it's a general statement, just like the salah was general, not a specific ruling like we have from that time onwards until today. Okay, so in Mecca, when you see some Mecca surahs, you say, oh, I heard in Medina it became obligatory. How come in these Mecca surahs it says zakah? When it says zakah and salah in Mecca, is referring to general sadaqah, general charity, general prayer, not this specific organized pattern it became after those acts of worship became obligatory. So for zakah, right, the zakah is of two types, the zakah of silver and the zakah of gold. At the time they used to use that commodity, they used to use silver and gold in buying and selling. Because we don't do that anymore, we give the equivalent in, for example, British pound, pound sterling, or dollars, or any other currency. Yeah? So, as it stands right now, the zakah, when you get to that certain level, yeah, there's a nisab, a level where zakah becomes obligatory. After you reach that threshold, when 1 year passes, how much do you have to give from that money that you have? 2.5%. They're peanuts compared to what Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us. And despite that, some people try to cheat. Allah's time. Because what you have to keep in mind is the threshold is, like we said, gold and silver. And which one to choose is a debate between the scholars. Some say gold, some say silver. Some say you can choose. But from the scholars of our time, they have advised that it's better to choose the one that's the threshold is less, so that help can get to the needy and the poor quicker. So as of right now, today, the threshold of the level that you need for zakah, silver is around 350 pounds. 350 pounds. And for gold is 5,115 pounds. Okay? So silver is 612 in the Sunnah has been mentioned, the specific amount. 612.36 grams of silver, which is 350 pounds, and gold 87.48 grams of gold, which is 5,115 pounds. Okay, so these two amounts now, when you get to that, when 1 year passes, and in that 1 year you don't go under the amount. If you go under the amount, then it's zero again. Then you have to wait again until it goes back up. So only if it goes above that amount and stays above that amount for a whole year, then it is obligatory for you to pay 2.5% of the total amount that you have at the time. So now that we have these two, obviously not everyone's got just 5,000 pounds in the account without it going below. Yeah, so if you're going to go by that, then there's barely going to be any time where people give the zakah. So it is more preferable to keep to the silver threshold, which is 350 pounds. So for example, if you have 500 pounds in your account and it stays 500 for a year, you have to give 2.5%, which is 12.5 pounds. Is that a lot? Yeah, now a burger meal is 12.5 pounds, right? So from 500 pounds, 12.5, 12 pounds 50p. It's nothing. Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jalla is merciful. But despite this, you know, the brothers that they would give their money or buy something from someone just so that they can go below and then take it back from them again. And they think they're doing something. They think they're tricking Allah Azza wa Jalla, wa'iyadu billah. And the punishment for not giving his zakah and trying to do these foolish childish games is very, very severe. Because we're not asked much. And despite that whole wealth Allah Azza wa Jalla has given to you in the first place, right? He's given you the thousands. And all he wants from you is 2.5%. From 1,000 pounds, that's 25 pounds. 25 pounds from 1,000 pounds. And if you try to cheat with even that amount, then obviously you deserve that severe punishment. Okay? So that's with regards to the zakah. And you have zakah of land, zakah of business. And one thing to note is, if you're a person who gets that amount of money, it is obligatory for you to know the ruling of zakah. You know, excuse saying, no, I don't know, and inshallah one day. No, it's not. It's a pillar of the religion. It's not optional. Some people, they treat zakah as if it's donations. Yeah, when I feel like I'll just pay zakah. No, it's not feel like it. When you reach the threshold, 1 year passes, you have to give. You have to give 2.5%. Right? Okay. The next part that's mentioned in the hadith is وَحَجِّ الْبَيْتِ, performing hajj. Performing hajj is obligatory every single year, right? Right?
Once in your life. Oh, sorry.
Come on.
I thought you were asking me.
Once in a lifetime. Even once in a lifetime with the conditions of?
You have health, if you have wealth, and you can travel there.
Yeah, so if you have the ability and you have wealth. And for sisters, the additional condition of having a mahram. Yes, having someone, male relative of you, of their sister with them when they perform the hajj.
Recently they've been
question at the end.
Sorry.
Barakallahu feekum. Afwan. So the 9th hajj became obligatory in the 9th year of al-Hijrah. Yeah, so this is like close towards the end of the life of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During the 9th year of al-Hijrah, this act of worship, Hajj, pilgrimage of Hajj, became obligatory on the Muslims from that time until today and onwards, bi'idhnillah. And obviously, Hajj is to be performed in a specific time of the year, which is during the month of Dhul Hijjah, starting from the initial Umrah and then going through the different rituals to perform the Hajj in accordance to the Sunnah of our Messenger ﷺ and the Sunnah of Ibrahim ﷺ before him. And Hajj is something that even Quraysh would do. The Kuffar of Quraysh and the Arabs of the peninsula, they would do that way before the Messenger ﷺ became a prophet. Right? So he came, Rasulullah ﷺ, to carry on the tradition, mostly going with that which was practiced before the prophethood. Yeah? So, the side point of this, the Hajj one, my dear brothers and sisters, is that I am aware that in recent years it has become drastically more difficult to perform Hajj, especially for us going there. And we have also seen a lot of people that went through difficult times and even passed away during Hajj a couple of months ago, during this last season of Hajj. Most of them, almost all of them, they were people that got there illegally. So what happens when you go there illegally is that you don't get tents, you have to sleep anywhere outside, you don't get as much food, you're not going to have access to as much food as you need, as much water as you need, and in the almost 50 degrees, it's understandable that it's not difficult to go through with that. Yeah, so we have to remember the condition that is placed in our religion, which is having the ability to go, the health and the wealth aspect of Hajj. Now that it has become difficult and the threshold for actually going to Hajj has become so difficult for everyone, especially from the West, there is no need to try to push yourself and go through any other route, causing problems for yourself, for your family, and others that are there performing Hajj. Right? It is not recommended and advised for someone to go through those routes. If you don't have the ability, Hajj is not obligatory in the first place, and you are excused. You're excused from not going Hajj if it's too difficult to go. Right? So I would say that there's no need for someone to try to find other routes that perhaps are not legal, strictly speaking legal, but then they go through maybe other countries with other groups that pay less, or they just go and stay in Mecca, or any other way that they would do. One brother actually made a business out of this, subhanAllah, like going those routes. But there's no need. There's no need, and you're going to cause problems for yourself. Obviously we all know of the severity of the laws of Saudi Arabia. They've been placed there mostly to keep everyone safe, because obviously it's not just thousands or a few hundred coming there, and we saw what happened when people tried to go through different routes in the last Hajj season. Thousands perished. May Allah Azza wa Jal forgive the shortcomings and accept the Hajj from them. They have passed on. But the point is, there was no need to do that. There was no need to go and then being forced to sleep on the roads, on stone, on concrete, on the bridges, not having any access to food or water, and then passing away like that. There's no need. May Allah Azza wa Jalla safeguard us all. And then the last pillar that's mentioned in this hadith is fasting the month of Ramadan. And fasting the month of Ramadan became obligatory, like Zakah, in the second year of Al-Hijrah. The second year Al-Hijrah, which means that Rasulullah he fasted 9 Ramadans. He fasted 9 Ramadans. So again, fasting is obligatory for the person who's got the ability to do so. Yeah, and like those other pillars, it is not optional and is not to be taken lightly. On top of that, in Ramadan, Are you supposed to only stay away from food, water, or drink? What else are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to be in Ramadan? Yeah?
Tarawih prayers.
Oh, Tarawih prayers. Obligatory, right?
No.
Good. This time you got it right. Now, Tarawih prayers is not obligatory, even though, unfortunately, it is treated as an obligatory prayers. May Allah Azza wa Jal keep us on the straight path. Yani. Even in Ramadan, even though generally the attendance for the salawat in the masajid are more compared to the other months, but when you compare Taraweeh to those salawat, you still see way less people. And Taraweeh is treated as an obligation when it's not and it's voluntary. And Rasulullah never prayed Taraweeh. He prayed it only 3 days. Other than that, no one prayed in the way we do. Yeah, we're able to follow in that sunnah of Rasulullah. He wanted it to be this way. The only reason why he didn't is because he feared that it would become too difficult for the ummah. So then he only prayed it 3 times in congregation, Taraweeh, then he left it because he didn't want it to become an obligation. But despite that, we still treat it as an obligation, but then we don't get to the masjid for the other salawat that are more important. Literally the salah after, compare the Taraweeh prayer to the Fajr prayer. Straight after. Big difference. Taraweeh packed. Fajr you got 3 sufuf again. What is this? It's supposed to be the opposite. Taraweeh is optional. The 5 daily prayers, they are obligatory. But that's become the norm. That's become the common practice. Allah musta'an. So fasting the month of Ramadan, we not only fast from eating or drinking, but we fast with staying away from haram even more than the other months, and we try to do as much good as possible. Yeah, we try to do as many good deeds, as much worship in that month as possible. And having said that, we have about 5-6 months until the next Ramadan, which will be this time the end of February. Yeah, don't think it's March anymore. I think it's end of February, right? End of February. So that's only about 5-6 months away, not that long. So preparing yourself from now, as we know the companions, they would, radiallahu anhum, after Ramadan, for 6 months they would pray and beg Allah Azza wa Jal to accept the Ramadan. Then the following 6 months they would beg and pray Allah Azza wa Jal to witness the next Ramadan. So we say, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. May Allah Azza wa Jal allow us to witness countless more Ramadans. May Allah Azza wa Jal allow us to witness countless more of those 10 blessed nights of the year and the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, and accept it from us. Because those are the ones that would propel you and boost your iman and boost you through the ranks of Islam, Iman, Ihsan, as we mentioned in the other hadith. Okay? So in short, we have those pillars that are mentioned in this hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh. And apart from the Shahada and the Salah, number 3, 4 and 5, the order is not going to be the same in those different hadith. Okay? So in this hadith we have, obviously after Shahada and Salah, we have Zakah, then Hajj, then fasting. In other hadith, you will see fasting, then Hajj. In other hadith, you have fasting, then Zakah, then Hajj. Right? So, apart from the Shahada and the Salah, the order of number 3, 4, 5 would not be the same in the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, there's a lot that can be said about the pillars of this religion. Is great acts of worship. If we were to dwell into every one of them in depth, we will not finish. We will spend months and months just talking about these pillars. That is why this specific book of Hadith has been chosen, because of the greatness of the Hadith that are contained within this book. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward the author. May Allah Azza wa Jal unite us with him, with the companions, with the prophets and the martyrs upon lofty thrones in his eternal bliss. May Allah Azza wa Jal keep us on the straight path and grant us a deep understanding of our religion, allow us to practice that which we learn. Barakallahu feekum. If there are any questions before we end.
Is it true that it's obligatory to do Umrah once in your life as well?
It's not mentioned as an obligation, no. Generally, the thing is, when you perform Hajj, you have three different types of performing Hajj, right? So one is doing Hajj only, and one is when you combine Umrah and Hajj with the same Ihram, and the third one is when you combine Umrah and Hajj with two different Ihrams. So you make the intention for Umrah, then you, most of the time you cut your hair, and then you leave Ihram, then you enter Ihram again to perform Hajj. So generally, most of the time, if not basically all the time, people that go for Hajj, they do the Umrah as well. But what I would say is that staying away from the house of Allah Azza wa Jal for too long hardens and darkens the heart. And you need that constant relationship and visit to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal as much as possible. And Umrah, Hajj, yeah, obviously we've already spoken about its importance now, and that the ajr for Hajj obviously is as though your mother just gave birth to you, newborn baby, right? But with Umrah now, it has become extremely easy to perform Umrah. And there's no excuse of not having enough anymore. What used to cost 1,000, 2,000 pounds, now there are people that go for Umrah for 90 pounds. Right? If you put that time, dedication, and effort, Allah Azza wa Jalla will open doors for you. But it is from one of the signs of basically being close to hypocrisy and a hypocrite to keep away from the house of Allah Azza wa Jalla too long. And when I say too long, I mean years. Yeah, like 5 years, keeping away 5 years or more is not a good sign of the condition of someone's heart. Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Any other questions?
Regarding the sunnah of the salah, if someone is, for example, misses them due to some reasons, okay, so does it become sinful, or like these sunnahs, I mean, they are as mandatory as the faraid of the salah?
Okay, good question. Strictly speaking, technically, no. But the only reason why I say that is because it's not permissible to say that they are obligatory. But they're not far off. In that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never, ever left those sunnah prayers. Never. And some scholars, they say that if you were to just continuously leave them, then you may be barred from drinking from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's blessed hands, from the river of Kawthar on Yawm al-Qiyamah. But generally speaking, you shouldn't leave, you shouldn't make it a habit. You should realize that obviously leaving them doesn't mean that you're sinful, but at the same time, you should not leave. Make it a habit of constantly doing it. Yeah? And try your best to do it at home. Sometimes it's difficult to do it at home, that's fine. Start off in the masjid, because it's easier to do in the masjid, and once it's become a habit, then try to pray as many of them as you can at home, because it's better to pray them at home rather than praying them in the masjid. But again, if you're not in the habit of praying them at home, sometimes you go home, you get busy, this happened, that happened, you forget. So start praying them in the masjid regularly for some time until they become habit, and then start and see how you get along with praying them at home. Right? So another point regarding that is, even though the sunnah of those salawat, the sunnah al-rawatib as they're known and they're referred to, they're not wajib. There is no need to rush into praying them straight after obligatory prayers, right? It's an unfortunate habit that is seen in a lot of places where people straight after the taslim, they get up to pray the sunnah prayer, right? You need to do the adhkar. Like we said, one of the ways of following Rasulullah is Allah yu'bad Allah illa bima shara. We worship Allah Azza wa Jal the way He legislated, the way He showed us. Rasulullah showed us that after obligatory prayer, he would sit, he would do adhkar, lengthy adhkar, and then he would get up and pray the sunnah prayers. He wouldn't do the taslim and then get up and pray the sunnah prayers straight away. No. Okay, so it is crucial to keep that in mind and make it a habit of doing the adhkar, the full adhkar, and then you get up and pray the sunnah prayers. And the sunnah prayers, you get a variation, this slight variation in the amount. Okay, so you have 2 rak'ah before Fajr, and the one that they differ with is Dhuhr prayer. Because some say you pray 4, then Dhuhr, then 4. Some pray 4, Dhuhr, then 2. Some pray 2, Dhuhr, then 2. Okay? And then you have no ratiba for the Asr prayer, 2 rak'ah after Maghrib, and 2 rak'ah after Isha. Any other question?
I was trying to have clarification when you mentioned the
Hajj.
mahram for the sister.
Okay.
Because we have heard recently sisters going into group and saying that it stands as a mahram. What is your comment on that? Especially for the sisters, because they've been mentioning it and some of them have been applying it. So
It is better for them not to do so.
Exactly.
There is no need to push again, just like the issue of difficulty going in terms of finances. For the sisters, there is no need to push yourself in going. There might be a permissibility. I'm not saying here that is not permissible at all in groups. What I am saying is that one shouldn't push themselves with going in a way that could become difficult, because for men it is already extremely difficult. The ones that have been, they will understand that it is not easy going for Hajj. For well-built young men, they struggle. If you fall, when there's like a lot of people together, if you fall, you're not getting up again. They will step on you and you'll end up in hospital or you'll die. It's not a joke. So for sisters to go in this way, not only in terms of permissibility, let's leave halal and haram for a bit, right? But in terms of the logic, safety, and peace of mind, it is definitely better going with a mahram. That is why it's put there. There is definitely hikmah in that condition being there. That you don't push yourself to go without a mahram, without a male relative. And if you don't have it, then you don't need to go. Allah Azza wa Jalla is not going to hold you accountable. There was no. A man, that's another point. A man in the family must, to the best of their ability, try to accommodate females that would go for Hajj. Unless you have a good reason to excuse yourself, when they want to go, you need to be responsible for that. You need to go with them and not make excuses and then preventing them from going. Because I do understand sisters, they're okay, I'm never going to go then. Yeah, they are excused, like I said, and we're not talking about the permissibility or halal haram of going in a group. Sometimes there's different ahkam depending on the specific situation. What I'm saying generally is, when there is a need, make yourself available if it's possible. And don't just excuse yourself and say, oh, I'm not available, so you... No, don't do that. Try your best to accommodate for that female relative of yours aspiration and goal in performing Hajj. Because they want to go for Hajj, just like any of us would want to go for Hajj. But like I said, it cannot be emphasized enough that it's not really the smart option, the choice for sisters to go by themselves without male relative. Because male relative, the mahram, is there to protect and provide, look after them, and keep them safe. Yeah, not that it shouldn't be thought of as some sisters, they think it's like a limit on them. Oh, you guys can go mahram. Or it's not about that. It's about الرجال قوامون على النساء. You're responsible for those women of our households. You're responsible for them. If anything happens to them, you will be held accountable. You are the shepherd of that household. You are going to be held accountable. So it's about keeping them safe. I'm telling you, men, they struggle to perform Hajj. Well-built men, they struggle. Let alone women. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla grant us understanding. Any other questions?
Just a last one on coming back on the brother question on the Nawafi. Regarding the witr salah, is there, because I understand maybe different opinion on madhahib, but I think is it in the madhab Hanafi that is
Obligatory.
Obligatory. Yeah.
Wajib, yeah.
But I think we understand, we've been taught that the fard salah are the five that we know, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. So if we can have clarification on the witr, if someone misses it, for example, has he got to recompensate for it? And also the two rak'at of Fajr. Some brothers, for example, if they miss them, then they catch up after the salah. After we pray the first salah, they go and pray 2 rak'at. Other, they say no, if you miss them, then you miss them. What is the right opinion on that?
Okay, good question. So the first one about the witr prayer, there is some difference from the scholars, rahimahumullah and hafidhahumullah, regarding the ruling for the witr prayer. Some say that they consider it an obligation based on some of the adillah that they mentioned. That Rasulullah would never leave it in any way, shape or form. He never ever left it once, so he raises it above. And they say that you cannot put it in the same category as the other, for example, sunnah rawatib, because he would leave them when he would travel, for example. You're right? When you travel, you don't pray the sunnahs. That's how Rasulullah did it. That's how we do it, except for the 2 rak'ah of sunnah fajr. But the witr prayer, he never, ever left. He would pray on a camel, riding, sitting, standing, any way he could, he would pray the witr salah. So it is way more recommended, extremely recommended, that one shouldn't leave the witr salah. You don't leave the salah of witr at all in any way, shape or form. The Muslim does not leave witr salah. If you, just as some of the ulama, they say, if you are tired and if you're literally tired and you're about to shut down, and after, for example, the 4 prayers of Isha, you don't have the strength to pray the 2 rak'at of Sunnah. They say at least pray 1 rak'ah witr before you collapse. If you can't do that, if you don't have the strength at all to pray those 2, pray 1 witr before you collapse, just so you do not miss the witr prayer. The vast majority of scholars, they still don't put it in the obligatory part, because an obligation needs a direct command for that to be obligatory. Yes, it is mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jalla loves witr, loves oneness. Yeah, that He is an example of. so he loves for us to perform that odd number. He is odd, so he loves that which is odd. That's why we end our day with Maghrib, which is 3. And we end our night with the witr, which is 1, 3, or 5, or 7 or more, right? So we end the day with witr and we end the night with witr, right? So just to keep you on the safe side, if you miss the witr prayer, you don't have to make it up. You don't have to make it up. If someone says to you that yeah, you can and stuff, there's some opinions that point in that direction, but most say it is still not obligatory, just like the fara'id, right? So because it's mentioned khamsu salawat, 5 daily prayers. If you add witr, it's not going to be 5 anymore, it's going to be 6, right? It would have been mentioned in that hadith. So there is some points that they mention that are valid points, but just to keep on the safe side, and with the majority of scholars, we say that it's extremely highly recommended, but not an obligatory prayer. The second question regarding the sunnah of Fajr, based on the hadith that's mentioned, if you miss the sunnah before Fajr, then you pray it after the Fajr Salah. So if you come in and it's too late and you didn't get the time, then you can pray them after Salah, which is specifically been mentioned in the hadith. And then that ruling has been taken and applied to the some other Salahs. Well, only one Salah, which is Dhuhr. Right? So because if you miss the Sunnah of Dhuhr, for example, you come in and it's too late and it's time for Dhuhr Salah, then you can pray the Sunnah of Dhuhr, the initial one before, you can pray that after. Just as you do with the Sunnah of Fajr. But the Sunnah of Fajr has its own level, because Rasulullah would not leave that singular 2-unit Sunnah before Fajr, he would never leave. And he would say those 2 units of prayer is better than the dunya and everything in it. So he would never leave this 2 Sunnah even when traveling. So we shouldn't. But doesn't mean that it's obligatory or that it cannot be prayed, because even in the hadith, the man missed that and he was told that he is allowed to pray those 2 rak'ah of sunnah after, but nothing else is allowed, right? So it is not permissible. That is one of the prohibited times. Or after Fajr, if you miss the 2 rak'ah of sunnah, you're only allowed to pray those rak'ahs of sunnah, no other prayer, until after sunrise. If you prayed the 2 sunnah before, then you only have Fajr. After Fajr, there is no prayer. Don't pray anything else until sunrise, because that's one of the prohibited times. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Fadal ya Shaykh.
What if you miss Fajr and you decide to read the Fajr Qaza because you failed to get up in the morning? So you've read Fajr Qaza. Should one then also continue? Should you also pray the Sunnah of the Fajr?
The Sunnah of Fajr, because of its unique station, you pray the 2 rak'ah of Sunnah as well, even if you miss. Even if you miss Fajr Salah, you pray 2 rak'ah Sunnah and then you pray 2 rak'ah Farad.
Regarding that,
Okay, one last one.
regarding Tahajjud, someone has an intention to wake up for the Tahajjud, so, and if you praise the witr after Isha, so is it allowable to pray after Isha, or like it has to basically make up pray with the Tahajjud?
So the scholars, they differ regarding that.